Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, yeah, would they be entitled? Would the children of these people who don't have a permanent domicile and are not here lawfully, would they be entitled to this? And where does it say that?
That's my understanding. I think that the clear text of the 14th Amendment shows that. I don't know the specific case law surrounding it, but I mean, I can Google around and show you. I would have to see the context in which they cite that. If you DM me a link through TikTok, I don't think you can post links in chat. I just don't think they work. But if you DM me, I think I already followed you, so you should be, my DM should be open to you. If you want to DM me a PDF, I can read more about it.
All right, yeah, and I'll try to find that other quote. I mean, about like what's it called?
Ludecky
Versus Watkins, right? But I think it was a good, productive talk. All right, I'll catch you later.
Yeah, it was good talking. I hope we can chat again sometime.
Alright, I mean, yeah, so I'll just grant you this birthright citizenship thing. Do you want to talk about like anything else? If you have any other topics?
Okay, so I'm glad that we could concede there. I think that this also just speaks to the way that Donald Trump wants to engage with things. I think he just doesn't care about the Constitution, and he just wants to weaken it as much as he can. I mean,
Yo, can you hear me now?
yes, we are good. I can hear you.
Alright, my bad for not joining earlier. I was on someone else's live,
You're
right?
good.
And then after I forgot, I fell asleep.
Don't worry about it, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay. So I asked you to come on, because the first interaction that we had, you seemed relatively knowledgeable, and I always like picking the brain of people who are relatively knowledgeable. So just to get a gauge of where we're at, like on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you grade Trump's performance as a president so far?
Probably around a 6.5, but I mean, his administration isn't really that good, I'm not gonna lie. I don't like his administration at all, but Trump's policies and certain actions do to let me favor him, right? Over not favoring him.
Okay. Do you have any specific examples of like what you particularly liked from him, or?
Sure, but I mean, like, there's quite a lot of his policies. Do you want me to shotgun them, or do you want to go like one by one over what the policies do?
We can shotgun them now, and then if there's any points of interest, we can.
Sure. So keeping promises to veterans, establishing a national center for warrior independence, right? It's just stuff about veterans and like improving like services and housing for them, strengthen the reliability and security of the United States electric grid, right? And instructs the Secretary of Energy just like improve like safety and like backup processes for the electric grid. This one isn't necessarily going to be a Trump only policy, it's a Trump admin policy, right? But he's included, right? It's his plan to modernize air traffic control system. This is only a plan, so again, like this isn't something crazy, but I mean, prima facie, this sounds good, right? It replaces outdated infrastructure with state-of-the-art fiber wireless satellite technologies at 4,600 air traffic control sites, including 25,000 new radios, 600 new radars, and 475 new voice switches. Build 6 new air traffic control coordination centers, and just replaces software and hardware, right? And some of his medical policies, right? Like making America healthy again by empowering patients with clear, accurate, and actionable healthcare pricing information, which basically reasserts the legal force of one of his older policies, which just like it makes it easier to understand like certain like hospital bills, and you get like it requires a range of like the pricing for across hospitals and easy to understand format, consumer friendly, machine readable, right? And it enforces regulatory action to like punish people who don't follow this, right? Just to ensure compliance.
Sure.
This one, right, reducing anti-competitive regulatory barriers. This is an alright policy, prima facie. It doesn't really have like a crazy plan, right? It just all agency heads shall complete a review of all regulations subject to the rulemaking authority and identify those that create or facilitate the creation of de facto or de jure monopolies that create unnecessary barriers to entry for new market participants, and just a couple other stuff that like try to simulate competition like within business, right?
Okay,
The
sure.
private sector.
And
no, continue.
you do if you want to continue, you can.
I mean, there's a couple other ones, but I get you get the point. Like, there's like his deregulatory ones, energy ones, right, which are subject to debate about like the climate. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, he has.
So when it comes to a lot of the stuff that you read off, I mean, it seems like okay to decent executive orders. That's probably fine. It like I guess. Do you have any concern with the way that the Trump administration is behaving right now at all?
Definitely with the Trump administration, right? His administration does have problems following the Constitution. I argue that Trump himself, in this new term, hasn't necessarily violated it. Like I could argue against that, right? But
Mm-hmm.
his administration, Kristi Noem, definitely violated it when they deported Kilmar Abrego Garcia.
Okay.
Caroline Levitt, right, definitely violated it when she rejected the press, right? When they opened the doors to everybody and she rejected them access.
Mm-hmm.
Lee Zeldin and like the rescinding funding that's appropriated by Congress. I don't
Yeah.
necessarily know, right, the conditions, right? Because I mean, you can redirect funding if it's a broad, like let's say, like let me give you an example, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
that veteran affairs policy redirects funding given to illegal immigrants, right? For the from like the housing thing,
Yeah.
right? And when they give a certain agency a broad range of what to do with the funding, it's legal for the president to or not reallocate, but like
Mm-hmm.
repurpose that funding, right, without it being necessarily having to go through Congress.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in some of those instances it might not violate the Constitution, but like what Lee Zeldin did, right, and them just outright rescinding funding, like I feel like that
Right.
violates the
Yeah.
Constitution.
Well, it probably wouldn't be unconstitutional necessarily, but it'd definitely be against the Impoundment
Laws,
Act.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure that. And I mean,
Okay.
no, continue.
Just to hit on that a little bit. Do you think it was concerning that Trump is basically saying that he's not going to do anything to facilitate Abrego Garcia's return at all, even though you conceded there was a probably unconstitutional removal?
Well, I'm not sure whether or not he said, like, I watched the interview and he said he's just not going to bring him back, which, like, Merriam-Webster defines effectuating as just bringing something about. So, I
Mhm.
mean, you can interpret it as him saying, like, since bringing him back is effectuation, and in that case, effectuation is not lawfully required, right? He's just not going to be effectuating his return. That wouldn't necessarily violate anything. And, I mean, if you make the argument that, oh, well, he hasn't said anything that shows him facilitating his return, that's just an argument from silence. So, I mean,
Well,
I
that's
don't
an
know. I
arg.
honestly can't determine that.
The argument that comes from where it says like he hasn't made a meaningful step to facilitate his return is because that was the district court's orders that they have to share any information that they've any information that they have on actions that they've taken to facilitate his return, and the Trump administration has provided nothing. So that's where that argument comes from.
Yeah,
is
well,
that
that's
was
what,
part of
like,
the district court order.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, like, most people say, like, oh, he hasn't shown it publicly, so he's not doing it. So that's what I'm saying would be an argument from silence. And I don't know whether or not he has, right, demonstrated those steps to the district court order, or whether he's required to. If you could, like, substantiate that for me, that would be nice.
Yeah, if you go through the court lister with it's Garcia v. Noem. I mean, they haven't shared any information about any steps that they've taken to facilitate his return. There's nothing to really substantiate because there's nothing that's been provided. Like, you can't prove a negative.
Yeah, but wait, does the order say that he has to provide it to the public or to the district court?
To the
And if
district
he's
court.
like, how do we know that he hasn't done anything to the district court? Like, where's that come
Because
from?
so the district court ruled that you have to share the steps that you've taken to the district court within a certain time span, and then they said that they couldn't meet that time span. So then the district court ordered again that until they share anything, that order is going to be basically delivered every day, and that I'm pretty sure that order is still in place, or they keep requesting information in regard to that order.
So where is this order where it said that they didn't meet the due date or whatever? Like,
Give me 1 second.
That's
I can
what you're
pull it up for you.
yeah.
Garcia v. No.
I mean, like, I don't mean to just like divert off topic here, but another thing that I
Okay.
think is pretty nice is the amount of like, well, although like I'm not like necessarily convinced that they're actually gonna do these things, but like the amount of companies that announce investment, like if you just look at the sheer mass of companies announcing investment, right? We don't know whether or not they're actually gonna follow through with that, right? I can't say anything like I can't say like, oh, well, he's brought in all this investment, right?
Mhm.
But the sheer fact that they're announcing that many companies are announcing large investments, I feel like that's a positive thing that could help my view of him, right?
Yeah,
And
so I'll post this in the source chat real quick. So this is the docket for Garcia v. Noem. Order 51 was directed the defendant to take all available steps to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia to the United States as soon as possible, and to file no later than 3:30 a.m. on Friday, April 11th, a supplemental declaration basically giving information as to what they did to facilitate his return. And then if you go down to, let's see where it was. Opposition. Oh yeah, 61. Order finding the defendants failed to comply with Order 51. Accordingly, beginning April 12th, 2025, and continuing each day thereafter until further order of the court, defendants shall file daily declarations to the same effect.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I see where you're saying that, right? However, right. Is this order, right? Who's like writing down like the declaration? Is that Trump or like the administration? Like,
it's going to be
who's
the
supposed to write
people.
this
It's going to
down?
be his people who have relevant information to the case. So it's not going to be Donald Trump himself. It's probably going to be people who work for immigration services.
Got it. And nowhere else does it say that they complied. Like, oh, let me just Command F comply. Oh yeah, I'm not seeing anything. I mean, or wait, I mean, actually it says status report, right? That they gave at 4:12. What does that mean?
That means they gave a status report, but there was no relevant information in it.
Why was there no relevant information in it? Have you read it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, it basically just says that like he was a member of MS-13. There was certain things on his record, and then that's it.
Yeah,
It didn't share any steps that they took to facilitate.
Yeah. Okay, I read the first one. Yeah, it definitely does not. It says, "It is my understanding based on official reporting from our embassy that he's currently being held." I mean, that doesn't provide any useful information.
Right.
Let me read the second one. So I mean, yeah, they're just saying that basically he's MS-13. So I mean, they're kind of not complying. Okay, I can agree with you on that.
So I mean, like, doesn't that feel like a like
violation?
kind of a big, well, like also like kind of a big deal that like the Trump administration is just like willingly not complying with court orders?
Oh sure, yeah, I can grant you that, right? I mean, I definitely did. I mean, I honestly don't know how I feel personally about the case because like the Department of Homeland Security, right, has been making some pretty crazy allegations, but from the perspective of the Trump administration, they did wrongfully remove him. So I personally think that they should definitely not just facilitate but effectuate his return, right?
Okay, I'm glad
Yeah,
that we could both agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just share my main concerns here. I think that it's entirely possible that Donald Trump will, sign a couple decent executive orders. I think you could probably reasonably expect that out of any president of any political affiliation. But it feels like Donald Trump is like waging a unique war on any body that, and by Donald Trump I mean his administration, is kind of waging a war on anybody who can challenge the power of the executive branch right now. It feels like we've already seen them pretty willfully ignore SCOTUS orders, or like interpret them in a way that is like wildly bad faith. It feels like a lot of the executive orders that we've seen signed are very legally dubious. I would argue pretty blatantly unconstitutional. We've already seen like a pattern of behavior in his first term about trying to disregard and centralize power in the executive branch. And we've had like so much rhetoric over the span of his career in politics, which showed like kind of a brazen disregard for constitutionality. So I feel like we're seeing a lot of centralization of power, which is really, really bad, and I think is probably a little more concerning than a lot of people give it credit for.
Yeah, I agree that is concerning. I don't mean to interrupt, but like,
go ahead.
What executive orders specifically were unconstitutional? You said they were blatantly unconstitutional. Like, which ones?
I think that the initial Doge order was way too vague when it comes to, because we have certain laws in regard to disclosure of public principles. I think the first Doge order, the fact that we couldn't define who was in charge of Doge until 2 months after the initial executive order, was probably constitutionally dubious. I think the Birthright Citizenship Executive order
You want
was
to discuss
very.
birthright citizenship? I don't mean to interrupt, but I feel like
Yeah,
that
we
would be a
can.
good conversation to have.
We can. I've done a little bit more reading since we looked into it last time. I feel like
Yeah, I know. I saw your YouTube video, your YouTube stream in the morning. You're reading that one like American law case.
yeah, I was reading a decent amount. So the only case law that I read was Wong Kim Ark. But I read through the thing you sent me, the Senate transcripts.
Yeah.
And I feel like those were really, really clearly in favor of the interpretation of jurisdiction that I was proposing. But just so people aren't confused, so Donald Trump basically signed an executive order redefining subject to the jurisdiction thereof to exclude children born to illegal immigrants. That's caught in the courts right now.
But wait, you said you redefined it, but I mean, the thing I sent you, right? We see that a lot of people, including the guy who basically authored it, right? Like Bingham, Howard, Johnson, Trumble, right? I'm not any legal expert or political expert by any means, but I'm pretty sure they make it clear that they do not want illegal immigrants as
So
being included with this.
I'm not asking this to be a dick. I'm like, did you read the transcripts that you sent me?
I read a couple pages in certain instances, like when Senator Lyman Trumbull was defining subject to the complete jurisdiction, was talking about the Indians.
Mhm.
I read what Senator Bingham said, Howard said. I've read like skims of the pages, but not the full, like obviously full thousands of pages,
Right. Yeah.
just like the relevant sections.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, where do you think it disagrees, though? I mean, I'd like to hear your input on that.
So I know that the one thing that you quoted me was Trumbull saying, like, quote, that means subject to the complete jurisdiction. What do we mean by subject to the to the jurisdiction of the United States, not owing allegiance to anybody else? The problem is that if we go on to read a little bit more from that block of quote, the thing that he uses to justify that these people aren't within our jurisdiction is if you can sue them. Like, this is a quote, like, can you sue a Navajo Indian in court, when he was asked about what jurisdiction means. By not owing any allegiance to anybody else, it doesn't seem like he's really talking about having like dual citizenship in a different country. Or your parents having citizenship in a different country, because it just that's not related to any of the questions that he asked. All of the questions that he asked after bringing up this quote was all about being summonable in court, or whose laws you're subject to, which would, in this case, would absolutely be the United States when it comes to children of illegal immigrants.
Yeah, but I mean, if you read further to where the end of his statement is, he says, we do not exercise jurisdiction over them. It is only those persons who come completely within our jurisdiction, comma, who are subject to our laws, that we can think of making citizens. So I don't necessarily interpret this as him saying that if they are subject to our laws, they're within our jurisdiction. I think that he's saying that that is a qualifier. However, they have to come completely within our jurisdiction as well, right? Which he defines as not owing allegiance to anybody else. So we could see like people like Bingham, right, saying, I find no fault with the introductory clause, which is simply declaratory of what is written in the Constitution, that every being or every human being born within the jurisdiction of the United States of parents not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. And Senator Howard, right, I mean, and Johnson agrees with that, right? I can get you the quote, but Senator Howard specifically says, this will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers who credit to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of person.
So
I mean,
the problem is that I think you're conflating terms that mean something today that they didn't mean back then. So when we're looking at like aliens, we're not talking about like illegal aliens or people who aren't subject to like, you know, current immigration proceedings, because we didn't have any like widespread immigration law at the time. When I think, from what I've read, it feels unsatisfying to say that like owing allegiance means that you can't have any tie to any other country. It really seems like complete jurisdiction just means that like you are triable in court. That you don't have any diplomatic immunities, that you don't have you know, any allegiances to a country that we're at war with. And it felt like that was upheld not only by the cases cited in Wong Kim Ark under English common law, but also in Wong Kim Ark itself.
Yeah, well, I mean, potentially, I could see how your interpretation rises, but if we go to like these old dictionaries, like 1795 John Ash Dictionary, we look at the definition of alien, right? It just says a stranger or foreigner that belongs to like another sect, I think that says, or party, right? And let's search up what foreigner means, right? So right? If we look at the use of their language, right, in that time, I mean, it kind of does align with what we're talking about. And
I
I was
don't
gonna
believe that it
respond to what
does.
you said after, but I forgot.
That's okay. I don't feel that it does, especially when I think already it's a tall order to say that subject to the jurisdiction thereof means anything beyond the clear text of what subject to the jurisdiction means. Like these people are inarguably born in the United States. They are inarguably subject to our jurisdiction in the sense that they're summonable in court. They are subject to all of our laws. They are, for all intents and purposes, treated as citizens. Both in case law and like in any other interpretation of the 14th Amendment. I don't understand why these like contextually like questionable citations of, well, you need to be under complete jurisdiction erases it, which I don't even agree that it's saying what you're saying it's saying, but I don't know why that erases like our common law precedents that shows that jurisdiction just means that you're born within the realm and not a child of an alien enemy or of a foreign ambassador. To say that we're erasing that precedence and we're erasing what we typically know as being subject to the jurisdiction of a state to mean this thing that doesn't really apply to any other understanding of what we understand jurisdiction to mean. I think that's a really, really unsatisfying argument.
Yeah, but wait. So you're saying that because we don't understand jurisdiction, or I mean, because we understand it differently now, we should apply it back then? Like, is that kind of what you're trying to say?
What I'm saying is that I don't think we ever understood jurisdiction to mean what you're saying that it means. Not in the English common law from when we were still under the UK colonies, which a lot of our law practices came from. Not at the time of the 14th Amendment, because, I mean, Wonk and Mark came pretty soon after, and not now. I don't see that, like, there was any time where we would define jurisdiction thereof to mean that it doesn't apply to people who were born here to children of immigrants.
But I mean, yeah, again, like, if we go back to the Senate, right, I mean, that'd just be a debate of the Senate, right? I mean, you would agree that there can be a case for my position in these Senate proceedings, right?
No, I don't really think so.
Well, do you want to discuss that? Like, do you want to discuss the Senate proceedings? And also, I mean, well, like, why would we interpret it based off how we, like, the clear language, right? Why would we interpret a law that was written, like, 200 years ago with the language that we use, when in law, I mean, these precedents say that we should interpret it based off the language that is, or, like, the context of the language being used back then, right? Like, when I cited Robinson v. Shell and, I think Chevron was the other one, right? It does say that, like, when we're interpreting statutes, right, we reference the language, the context that language is used, and the broader context of the statute as a whole. Which, I mean, to figure that out, I mean, we would have to see what the
I'm
people
not
intended.
disregarding. I'm not disregarding originalism as a way to read the Constitution. I'm not disregarding that. The thing that I'm disregarding is that it looks like if you read the quotes that you're citing me within the context of the broader debate within the Senate, like not owing allegiance to anybody else, I don't think means the thing that you're saying it means. I don't think that, well, because right after he talks about how these people aren't summonable in court, and that's what makes them not within our jurisdiction, which aligns with my definition.
Well, what's the? I mean, yeah, I disagree with that. I'd say that being subject to our jurisdiction thereof is just only going to be one of the qualifiers. And if we look at the context of what the other people said, like Bingham, Howard, like, I mean, yeah, Bingham, the guy who basically authored it, says that it's not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, right? And a couple other like affirm like similar positions. Right, so why wouldn't we use what they say to like try to interpret what he says, right? I mean, like, wouldn't you
Not
agree that if
owing
we're trying to
any
determine what
allegiance
that
to
means?
a foreign sovereignty. Can you tell me, like, well, first of all, can you cite me a page number there?
Got you. Hold on, yeah, because this is actually on a different. This is not included within the thing that I sent you. I'll send you the link in a source. I think it's gonna be at the bottom middle. I'm pretty sure. Or no, it's gonna be actually directly in the middle, right? It's gonna be like literally in the middle, the top middle. I find no fault with the introductory clause. It's on page 1291.
I find no fault with the introductory clause, which is simply declaratory of what is written in the Constitution, that every human being born within the jurisdiction of the United States, of parents not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, is in the language of your Constitution itself, a natural-born citizen. But, sir, I may be allowed to say further that I deny the Congress of the United States ever had the power or color of power to say that any man born within the jurisdiction of the United States not owing a foreign allegiance is not and shall not be a citizen of the United States. Citizenship is his birthright, and neither Congress nor the state can justly or lawfully take it from him.
Well, what does that mean? What is that sentence that came after? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, that kind of sounds like it affirms that they do, but I don't know.
I agree that that sounds like it affirms that they do, because I think
let me read that.
I think he's.
No, no. He's saying that Congress can't rightfully deny them that if they follow those conditions, right? Because he's saying that they don't have the power to deny any person who has no foreign allegiance, right, to be a citizen, right? So, or wait, am I reading that right?
Hold on, give me 1 second.
I deny. Let me chat GPT this real quick.
I may be allowed to say further that I deny Congress of the United States ever had the power or color of power to say that any man born within the jurisdiction of the United States not owing a foreign allegiance is not and shall not be a citizen of the United States. Yeah, so
yeah,
I think what he's saying is that he doesn't think that Congress has the power to say that those people aren't citizens because citizenship is a birthright.
But those people would be the people who don't owe loyalty to another country, though. That's what I think it's saying. I mean,
but what he's saying is that Congress doesn't have the power to say that a man born within the jurisdiction, not owing a foreign allegiance, is not and shall not be a citizen. Citizenship is his birthright.
Yeah, but in the case of your position, it would be that people who do owe foreign allegiance, right, can be denied. But this is saying that people who don't owe foreign allegiance, right, they're granted birthright citizenship. So I don't see how that supports your case.
That people who owe allegiance are granted birthright citizenship?
Yeah, because this is saying that people who don't owe allegiance get birthright citizenship. They can't be denied that. But this doesn't say that people who do owe allegiance can't be denied that, right? That makes sense? But honestly, I do agree with you that Trump shouldn't try to end birthright citizenship, because if we look at it, right, the way they interpreted it, what does that mean for dual citizenship, or for like what are they gonna do in the hospitals, like when all these immigrants, right, come over and like have babies, right? So honestly, I think I could just grant you this because I disagree with Trump on this, but from a legal perspective, I do think he's right, and I'll still defend that.
I think even this quote doesn't.
I mean,
so
he's saying
that Congress doesn't have the right to take citizenship away
to someone born who doesn't owe loyalty to another country, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, wouldn't that affirm my position? Because this is talking about people who don't
I think
owe
this would be.
right?
I think this would be separate to your. I think this is
Why is that?
unrelated to your claim, because he's saying that I assume that this person is arguing against the amendment because Congress didn't have the power to take citizenship away anyway.
No, he wrote this. Is Bingham saying this? Is the guy who basically authored it.
Well, then what is the context of what he's saying here?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's saying that, okay, he says that Congress does not have the power to deny anybody who's born within the jurisdiction not owning a foreign allegiance citizenship. So he's saying that Congress can't deny people who qualify, right, by the law that he's previously prescribed, meaning not owning any foreign allegiance and being subject to our jurisdiction, for birthright citizenship. So basically, he's just affirming my position because he's saying that anybody who's born in our country, right, to any parents who don't owe a foreign allegiance and they're subject to our jurisdiction, they get birthright citizenship no matter what.
Oh, wait, hold on.
I mean, yeah, that confused me at the beginning.
I think
But
here's one of the problems too, is he talking about the parents owing a foreign allegiance, or is he talking about the child owing a foreign allegiance?
So wait, let me reopen it because that's actually a good point. I think if we look further back, right, to what he was saying, I mean, yeah, he said of parents not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty, right? So I mean, let me just grant you that like he made, or like he didn't make a mistake, right? And that this is talking about the children's citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess this would only apply to people whose citizenship doesn't transfer over, right? So I mean, even then, like I'm pretty sure I don't know, but most countries do transfer citizenship from the parent to the kid, even outside. Like I think China does that. I'm not sure, but I don't know. What I think he made like a little mistake. Like you can see right earlier, he says of parents not owing any allegiance to any foreign sovereignty,
Where does he
right?
say
And
that? Where's that at?
I find no fault right under there, right? But again, I don't see any reason to accept that interpretation over yours. That's actually a really good point. So I'd have to read context on it, or like read like a case law explaining it.
Because I mean, well, it feels like if you read the case law explaining it, it's probably going to cut in my direction.
If they provide a good argument, right? I mean,
Yeah, sure. Because I mean, like, okay. Have you read through Wong Kim Ark at all?
not the whole case, but I've definitely read, like, I know like the basic stuff about it.
So that's okay. So one of the main reasons why they sided the way that they did in Wong Kim Ark is because of U.S. law being built on common law, and one of the thing that came from the English Commons. This is a quote from Wong Kim Ark. It's on. Oh, okay.
So you're talking about Wong Kim Ark, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, also like the rationale behind deciding Wong Kim Ark.
Yeah.
So this is a quote from the justice that wrote the opinion. Children born in England of such aliens were therefore natural born citizen or subjects, but children born within the realm of foreign ambassadors, of the children of alien enemies, born during and within their hostile occupation of the king's dominions, were not natural born subjects because not born within the allegiance, obedience, or power, or as would be said to this day, the jurisdiction of the king. So it seems pretty clear that it lays out the three exceptions that I think apply to the 14th Amendment. That was their part of their rationale in deciding Wong Kim Ark. They also cited other common law things. This is another quote. It thus clearly appears that the law of England, for at least 3 centuries, beginning before the settlement of this country and continuing to this present day, aliens, while residing in the dominions possessed by the Crown of England, were within the allegiance, the obedience, the faith, the loyalty, the protection, the power, the jurisdiction of the English sovereign.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I see your point, right? And but what I think, right, because if you read the cases that they cite and the reasonings, like past what they're just, I mean, right here they're just describing just solely in the context of England, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you read like with the evidence that they cite from American case or like American cases,
Mm-hmm.
it's like what in the Act of 1790, the provision as to foreign-born children of American citizens was as follows: blah 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 blah. Children of citizens of the United States shall be considered as natural-born citizens, provided that the right of citizenship shall not descend to persons whose fathers have never been resident in the United States. And then another one, right? The persons that are heretofore born or after to be born out of the limits and jurisdiction of the United States, whose fathers were or shall be at the time of their birth citizens of the United States, shall be deemed and considered and hereby declared to be citizens of the U.S., but provided, however, that the rights of citizenship shall not descend to persons whose fathers never resided in the United States, right? And another one, it is evident from the proviso in the Act of 10th February 1855 that the rights of citizenship shall not descend to persons whose fathers never resided in the United States. And another one, in a very recent case, the Supreme Court.
What are you citing Supreme Court cases, or are you citing?
This is in Wong Kim Ark, right? This is the evidence that you can. These are quotes, right?
Can you give me a page number for one of those?
Yeah, and I think they're very ambiguous with the term of like resided, but there's one case that like makes it like fully clear, I think, what they mean. But yeah, for the Act of 1795, that's on page 24 of the PDF, 672 of the actual like
24
court case, right? I think the most important one though is in a very recent case, the Supreme Court of New Jersey held that a person born in this country of Scotch parents were domiciled but had not been naturalized here, was subject to the jurisdiction of the United States within the meaning of the 14th Amendment and was not subject to any foreign power. So I mean,
yeah. So I think so that would cut in my favor.
Wow, I mean, I think they're trying to say that if you have like illegal undocumented alien parents, right? But they have a permanent domicile here, that they are subject to the foreign or subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, right?
Yeah, they're subject to the jurisdiction.
But if they have a permanent domicile, though, I mean, I think.
Yeah, a permanent domicile doesn't mean somebody's legal or illegal.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that to qualify for birthright citizenship, if you are not here legally, you require a permanent domicile, right?
Yeah, to
I
constitute a
think so.
permanent domicile is just to be here and have intent to stay here. I feel like most illegal immigrants that would be subject to the executive order would probably fall under that as well.
But I don't know if that's how domicile would be defined. I mean, let me open up 17 or when was this?
What?
We'll find like a this case was in what
Oh,
1897 or
Wonka Mark. Give me 1 second. It was 1898.
all right, so we can look at Black's Law or like Ballantyne's dictionary, right? Because I mean, those are the most common dictionaries according to Georgetown and Yale.
Sure.
So if we're trying to interpret this, we'll just go to Black's Law and Ballantine. So Black's Law, right? Their PDF, right?
It's my understanding that
Let me
permanent
see.
domicile just means that you are situated here and that you have no intention of leaving here. And I think that's how it was used in Wonka Mark, but maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. I mean,
Because
we'll just have to see.
I know Wonka Mark's parents did not have
A house, but they had like a permanent house because they owned property.
yeah,
They
they had a
converted
permanent
it to a
domicile,
permanent
but
house.
I know that they weren't like they were lawful permanent residents, so they were not like full citizens. I think they still had allegiance to the Emperor of China, or at least it says that they were subject to the Emperor of China.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just trying to figure out what domicile means.
Okay.
Not respond to that. Um. Okay, they have a lot of Okay, so domicile, that place where a man has his true, fixed, and permanent home and principal establishment, and to
Mhm.
which whenever he's absent, he has the intention of returning. Well, I mean, that's not
Yeah.
really. I mean, that doesn't really give credence to like either of our. I mean, I think
Well,
it
that's
agrees more with your definition, but
yeah. I
well,
think for the purposes of Wonka Mark, it was just that you have a permanent residence there and that you have intention of staying there.
oh, but I don't know, because I mean, they did have legal property, and they turned it into like an abode. So
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They had an established place there, and had every intention of returning to that place.
so I mean, so you say that? Oh, I agree that a legal abode qualifies you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, the question is, what about people who don't have a legal abode?
I
What does it say about that?
I don't think Wonka Mark has any comments about anybody who doesn't have a legal abode because I don't think deportations were something that were widespread in the United States at the time. I don't think we had like an understanding of a legal immigrant that like we do right now.
Well, yeah, but then I agree then, because the ruling of Wonka Mark is that if they are here, I think unlawfully, or I mean, I don't know, it doesn't necessarily say
If they're
unlawfully,
not
but I
naturalized
think that's
citizens.
assumed. Yeah, naturalized citizens, and they have like a permanent legal residence, then sure they are subject to our jurisdiction. So I mean, like, what's the point here with this conversation?
The
Like, you're
point
trying to say
the point
like,
that I'm bringing up with Wonka Mark is that it rejects your idea that you can't be subject to another foreign power in order to be a citizen because these people were subject to the Emperor of China.
but I mean, yeah, it gives like a specific qualification though that you have intent to return here. But I mean, I see your argument, but I mean, like,
So I mean, and then the thing I would say is that like, do you think that the people who like have children here, like even the anchor baby talking point, do you think that the people who are having children here have intention of leaving the U.S.?
definitely not. So I mean, I see your
I would agree.
point. Okay, I'll grant you that. Sure. I mean, I don't have a response. I'm not gonna lie. I'm
That's okay.
stumped here.
Um, what I'm looking for is that
Yeah.
the likelihood of Trump's birthright citizenship executive order surviving the Supreme Court is like under 10%. that's what I'm looking at.
Well, yeah, I agree. It's definitely not like if you look at it like legally, cases can be made both ways. But like if you look at it civilly, right? There's literally no reason to like deny them that. Like, there's no like benefit. There's nothing good that comes out of that.
Well,
It's
that's
only
not
negative. So
the territory of the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is to err on constitutionality, but I don't think that there's any satisfying. Or so I think the problem is that the quotes that you're giving me, from the Senate debates are either lacking context or not as pointed as they seem to be. It seems like
well, how?
well, I mean, I could just cite the one that you gave me right there. That like I find no fault with the introductory clause. That quote I don't think was saying what you were saying it was saying.
Well, I kind of give an argument for why it did. I mean, like if we just look at what it says, right? It's basically saying Congress does not have the power to deny anybody who does not owe allegiance, right, and is right subject to our jurisdiction and citizenship. So I mean, yeah, that would agree with me. How would that disagree?
That the reason that I would disagree is that we're not talking about the child.
Oh yeah, true. So like, yeah, does the citizenship transfer? Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So in cases like that, or in the case like the quote that you cited me the first time, what we mean by that is not owing allegiance to anybody else. He goes on to like immediately undercut that by defining under our jurisdiction as like he uses the example of summoning a Navajo Indian in court. Because it seems like most of the time when they're talking about, okay, are they under allegiance to anybody else? They're not talking about having dual citizenship. They're talking about having no citizenship in the United States or having no jurisdiction in U.S. courts. And they're talking about having jurisdiction only to their native tribe.
But I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, Bingham's earlier statement kind of does agree with me. And like, what that subject to, yes, the Indian thing, right? It ended with them saying that like, being subject to our laws is only a qualification. Like, it's not going to be the full thing. It doesn't make you subject to our complete jurisdiction. It's just something that you need to have to be completely in our jurisdiction, right? Or it's another qualifier for birthright citizenship.
I don't think that's how they're using it.
Yes, look at where they say we do not exercise jurisdiction over them. It is only those persons who come completely within our jurisdiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it puts a comma, who are subject to our law. So yeah, it separates those, and I mean,
completely within our jurisdiction. I don't think you substantiated that means that you can't have citizenship in any other country.
But I mean, yeah, he did talk about being completely. Oh, hold on, let me open.
Like completely doesn't mean exclusively.
Oh, hold on. I know, because Trumbull said something about this. Just give me a second to open back up the Congressional Globe. Bro, it's not even the right page. Just give me 1 second.
I mean, something else to keep in mind is that while you're looking for that, that the language of the subject to the jurisdiction was originated in the Civil Rights Bill that Trumbull proposed. It uses almost the same exact language. And then one of the senators from Pennsylvania asked whether the language would naturalize the children of Chinese and Gypsies born in the country, and Trumbull said undoubtedly.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna need a source for that, but also I think I found where it says complete jurisdiction.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, Trumbull says the provision is that all persons born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. That means subject to the complete jurisdiction thereof. And then he goes on to say, and now does the senator from Wisconsin pretend to say that Navajo Indians are subject to the complete jurisdiction thereof of the United States? What do we mean by subject to jurisdiction thereof? Not owing allegiance to anybody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
else
that's
can just be like
the quote that you cited to me the first time, but I don't think owing allegiance necessarily means what you're. I don't think that you owe somebody your allegiance if you are a citizen to that country. I don't think that that's what he means by owing allegiance. I think he's talking about owing primary allegiance, which would relate much more cleanly to his example of the Navajo Indians or the Indian tribes that he's talking about excluding from this.
What's gonna be the argument for that?
Yeah,
I was like, what's gonna be like the justification of that?
Well, because there'd be no reason for him to be bringing up owing allegiance to anybody in the situation of like having dual citizenship, because he was talking specifically about Navajo Indians who have no jurisdiction outside of being summonable in civil court, I think. So
I mean,
not owing
that was
allegiance to
definitely
anybody else, and then going on to talk about how they're not summonable in court, so that's why they're not subject to the jurisdiction. I don't think that this one string of 6 words
Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, so he's saying,
substantiates
are they?
itself.
Yeah, so he said, are they in any sense, or yeah, that's what it means. Can you sue a Navajo Indian in court? Are they in any sense subject to the complete jurisdiction of the United States?
Yeah, and
Oh
it
yeah,
seems
I
like
get
if
your
he
position.
said, "Can you sue them in court?" Is he subject to the complete jurisdiction? That it sounds like what he means is that if you're subject to the complete jurisdiction, it means you're summonable in court.
Alright, yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I'll grant you that.
So that's what I'm saying, is that it feels like a lot of these quotes
Mhm.
aren't as strong as it seems, and it seems like we're relying on these like kind of clipped out of context quotes in order to justify like make a legal justification here, when we also just have the SCOTUS precedent to rule against you there, we have the English common law to rule against you there, we have the plain text of subject to the jurisdiction and our understanding of what jurisdiction means to work against it. I feel like these these quotes from the Senate debates aren't nearly enough to pass the sniff test of constitutionality.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But I mean, I don't know, especially what Bingham said. I mean, his first thing with the introductory clause, right? I mean, that kind of makes it clear, like, regardless of what he said after, right? I mean, he does just outright say, like, not owing allegiance to any foreign sovereignty. Like, how would you like contextualize that?
But it's probably the same way that I'm going to contextualize owing. There's going to be a difference between owing any allegiance and owing complete or like most allegiance. So like, because all of these conversations are going to be had in regards to tribal Indians who have some jurisdiction in the U.S. but not like meaningful jurisdiction in the U.S. I would assume that it probably means the same thing there.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. You gotta send me those papers, bro, that you've been reading.
Yeah, I publish all my notes. I've got you.
Alright, I mean, yeah, so I'll just grant you this birthright citizenship thing. Do you want to talk about like anything else?
Um,
Or do you have any other topics?
Okay. So I'm glad that we could concede there. I think that this also just speaks to the way that Donald Trump wants to engage with things. I think he just doesn't care about the Constitution. He just wants to weaken it as much as he can. I mean, like, we have like the more damning quotes where he said like, I have the Article 2 ability to do whatever the hell I want, or we need to terminate the Constitution to rerun the 2020 election. It feels like it feels really scary to put somebody in office who views the Constitution not as the thing that he's elected to uphold, but rather like a thing that gets in his way from doing what he wants as president. That feels like a really scary thing.
I agree, but wait, what's gonna be the sources for him saying that?
For which one?
Seems like Article 2. I don't know the exact quote, but like what you just said, like what you just said, Trump said, like.
I read it in a book, so let me see if I can find an online quote real quick.
Yeah, let me look it up too. Well, I mean, yeah, I do agree that his immigration policy probably isn't that, like, it definitely isn't one of his strong points, even though that's one of the main reason people would cite for voting him. I definitely do disagree with his immigration policy, right? And I do think that his administration has troubles with the Constitution following it, but I'm not going to overlook like certain things that may be positive, right?
So
But
here's one of the things. He said the quote was, in 2019, he said, "And I have an Article 2 where I have the right to do whatever I want as president." So that's the one, and then the terminate the Constitution one is one that I talk about a lot because that's absolutely insane.
yeah, well, wait, the Washington Post is making me sign up, bro. Like, do you have any websites that like bypass that?
If you look up paywall bypass, it'll probably come up. But I can't say that it definitely will legally. I don't think. But yeah, so here was the screenshot before he ended up deleting it. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception and working close with big tech companies, the DNC and the Democratic Party, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution.
All right, yeah. What's gonna be like when he said this? I mean,
What'd you say?
like yeah. What's gonna be like when did he say this? Like, what's the source for it again? Right,
2022.
also, by the way, all right, got you. I accessed the article. Right, I'm just gonna watch the video and see if it's verified. Or I don't even have access to the video.
And if you...
Okay, do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner, or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the constitutions. Our great founders did not want and would not condone false. Okay, that is a pretty crazy statement.
Yeah, so I mean, like, that shows a pretty clear willing disregard for the Constitution, I think. And
yeah,
like,
but if this is valid though, I mean, they don't necessarily have like an archive link or like a link to this. So I mean,
well, I mean, there's another tweet where he,
I mean, bro, like, but this does not look good. This is not looking good for Trump.
Yeah, there's another tweet where he clarifies what he meant too, and it doesn't help either. Here's another. We only have archives because he ended up deleting a lot of them. But the fake news media is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. This is simply more disinformation and lies, just like the Russia, and all of the other hoax and scams. What I said is that there was massive and widespread fraud and deception, as has been irrefutably proven in the 2020 presidential election, and steps must be immediately taken to right the wrongs.
Okay, yeah, that does definitely sound like Trump. Like, you can't even deny that, but.
Yeah, which, I mean, righting the wrongs would probably be what he was referring to in the first tweet, which is terminating the Constitution.
Wait, that's why I avoid talking about anything prior to his second term, bro. His first term was a shit show, and
well, I mean,
January 6th was a shit show.
The problem with that is, though, is that if you are going to, like, go on and defend Trump, especially if you're going on to defend Trump's, like Trump as not being unconstitutional, it feels weird to, like, disregard, like, 7 different scandals that took place in his first term as presidency, where he was like super clearly and actively disregarding the Constitution. Like, it doesn't that speak to his mindset?
Yeah, agreed. But I mean, yeah, like that's just gonna be an impossible position to defend. Like, I mean, let's say I were to like start defending that. Like, how do you expect me to defend things like this? Like,
well, I don't. But I wouldn't expect anybody to defend Trump as like someone who adheres to the Constitution.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's most of the conversation that I wanted to have. I mean, if we're willing to meet there, that it does seem like Trump has a lot of constitutional problems, and it feels like he's kind of willing to view it as an obstacle rather than a thing that he's there to uphold. Then I don't know. I feel like we're kind of at a impassable place.
Agreed.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. What are your thoughts on Biden? I mean, like, because I feel like a lot of people hated him a lot. Right, but I don't think he was that bad. I'm not gonna lie.
I think a lot of his policies, like the things that he got through Congress, was pretty good. I think that he was, despite all the shit that he got, pretty decent at unifying both halves of Congress. It seems like some of the steps that he took towards the end were kind of shaky. I didn't really love the pardon of Hunter Biden. I didn't really love the preventative pardons of the J6 committee, but yeah, I don't know. It feels like if this was like 4 or 8 years ago, he would have gone down as a much more successful president. But coming right off the heels of Trump and like kind of the cult like following that Trump got, it was probably going to be hard to have a popular presidency. But it seems like if we're just looking at it from a policy position, pretty successful. I think the CHIPS Act was really good. I think the support that we were giving to Ukraine was really good. If you look at it from like a head executive perspective, it probably wasn't good that he was so fucking old and that he was losing it towards the end. But I mean, if I were to grade Biden, I would probably give him like a 6.
Yeah.
I would probably give Trump like a 2.
2.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think like after this conversation, probably like if we're talking about a second term, like 5. all time, probably like, yeah, I mean, maybe like a 4-3. 4 is generous.
Okay,
But I mean,
I'll
yeah, I
take a
think
3 all
today,
time.
yeah, I think it was a really productive conversation, really good conversation.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate you coming on. Feel free to circle around the community as well. We all like having conversations like this. There's some debate bros in here, but that's okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, I look forward to, if you ever want to chat again, just hit me up.
yeah, for sure. All right.
All right, perfect. Thanks. All right, cool. That went better than I expected it to. All right. At Fight Sport Talk, you're good. If you wanna chat now, just hop in meeting. Great day for our nation. True. Yeah, good talk. If we can get Fight Sport in here, then we'll have another good talk, maybe. But the last conversation with Fight Sport was kind of crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you, but that's okay. Yeah, that was a good talk. Hopefully we can me and X can chat again soon, and hopefully he stops putting the bait in his TikTok live streams, because that was not so good. Shout out the Soy Pill, by the way, for hosting something with actual Congress people. That's fire. I'm shocked that, so for the person that I just talked to, he runs a live stream that basically says like Trump hasn't violated the Constitution or something like that. I am really shocked that no one brought up the terminate the Constitution thing. Like I am, like, that's one of my first things to go to. Like, a lot of people view that as a cliche. I'm really shocked that that didn't no one ever brought that up to him. That's okay though.